Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Our presentation is called Data-Driven Downloads, No More Choosing Your Own Adventure. So what does this really mean? It means we revised our website, which allowed us to reorganize our public data and make it available in all formats, so finding basic information and data layers can be more user-friendly, eliminating all the venturing around to the different links and pages that we had. I'm going to start with talking about our limitations to our past website and why we made the change, and just a few factors that help influence the transformation. Bear with me, I'm not used to this. Our existing website was managed through a software called Titan CMS. It's a content management software. All departments in Milwaukee County use the same software, so it's universal across the board. However, each department varied their content. In our case, we threw everything at it. We had our apps, our service links, our district maps, our open data portal, and our download pages, all on that Titan site. Each department is able to edit and make changes to their department's website, but then the design experience manager would do the uploading and the finalization. Today, in our new site, we still use Titan as a content management, but we have simplified the pages. So why the big change? It all started with Milwaukee County obtaining Azure last year. Azure is a public cloud computing platform. This kind of created a domino effect. If we had Azure, we could get rid of Dropbox. If we got rid of Dropbox, we could eliminate costs per year. Then we started looking externally, researching other people's websites, what they had available. We looked at hubs, instant apps, and even the upgrade of Titan that occurred last year. Then we looked internally. What was our best practices? Were they outdated? Did we have outdated apps? We looked at our staff experience. Who was doing something new in Experience Builder? Who was doing something with Esri hubs? And we kind of gathered that information. But the bottom line, we were pretty confident that we could redesign our website that was driven by data. And unfortunately, there was a deadline. To help us out, we kind of, get ahead of myself. To help us out, we did an inventory of our entire website. We looked at all the layers, apps, downloads, what we could eliminate, what we could change. But we still were pretty confident that we could design a website and keep it simple, yet dynamic and fluid for the future, with our main focus being on accessible data to the public in a one-stop shop. The good news, it was November of last year when we started this project, and we had kind of the bad news, we had a completion date set for January 31st, 2024, when the Dropbox subscription was ending. So could we do it? Yes, we could, and we did. We moved all of our data from Dropbox to Azure, simultaneously redesigning our department's website using Titan, Experience Builder, 2 ArcGIS hubs, with the main focus again being on data downloads. This is our former website. And then this is the new one set up with Titan, basic Titan, and then the 2 hub pages with the app gallery in between and the download page. So, what factors influenced it? 2 main ones, technical and best practices. This one's going to be a quick example of technical. This is Titan on the left side and application gallery on the right. And what you do, just add an app in Titan. You create a thumbnail, upload it, save it. You create a contact box, add the thumbnail. Hopefully that thumbnail properties are set correctly. If not, you have to do a lot of playing around, either HTML or even in Illustrator, depending on who created that thumbnail. And the major thing with Titan, you have to have everything aligned. So once everything is set, you create the text, add the description, you add the application to the Titan page. There's another page that's associated with it. And then you go ahead and, if you're a Titan editor, you can publish it up. Then wait for the manager to do the final posting. In the application gallery, you just add the ad to the content group. You touch up the description. The properties are preset. You make it public. The publish is instant, and any user that has rights to that application gallery content page can do that. You can delete it or add. So the next example is going to be a factor that played a role is best practices. This form we had around for a long time. So our thing was, if we could get rid of this form, we might be able to do something different on our new website. So this form is called the data download form. It allows all of our users to obtain county-wide data relating to the cadastral, planimetrics, and LIDAR. They were all Dropbox links. And how it worked is that, pretty simple, the public would fill out this form, they would include their name, click the box, and hit the submit button. Behind the scenes, they would get an email that would tell them who obtained the data, and then we would get an email saying who took it and why, and there would be a table that was updated with all the statistics. So that actual process required updating 3 pages in Titan. And it was a form developed many years ago, even prior to Titan. And over the years, it's just proven to be difficult to update. Just adding new content every year is difficult. So our form became part of our major decision. And if we could do this in a different way, we thought it would be a good time to change it. So we eliminated this form, created a new app called Data Download in Experience Builder. And this tool now has allowed us to get our data out to the public with no forms attached. Today we have about 200 layers in it, and it will continue to grow. And we've also included the metadata. Now Bridget's going to go into more detail about that download table, but first she's going to talk about aspects relating to the hub.
Can you hear me? Yep, sounds good. Thank you, Kathy. When we embarked on this adventure, we decided to take advantage of everything Esri has to offer. We moved our applications and data pages to 2 ArcGIS hubs, which you can see the URLs for here if you would like to check them out. They will appear again in the slides later. We even decided to create a new contact form using Survey123, while our old one was based in Titan like the rest of our content. The only question we had was, how do we get the responses from the form emailed to us so we don't have to constantly check the results? This isn't a built-in capability to Survey123, but you can set up a webhook using a few different platforms, including Power Automate. I'd never heard of Power Automate before this. Turns out it's a Microsoft product, and I had access to it through my organization. Currently, the Power Automate flow is set up so that form responses are sent to our department email, and you can see the diagram for that on the right. But if you want, you could change the flow so that the responses that meet a certain criteria are sent to a particular person. For example, if you wanted to send questions of a certain category to a specific person in your organization who has expertise in that category. We kept a lot of our information on our main Titan site, but we agreed that we wanted to put our applications and GIS data on some kind of Esri platform, and we ultimately chose to use ArcGIS hubs. On our applications hub, we have our embedded instant app that uses the gallery template, which displays all of our public applications, except for our data download related applications, which are in our data hub. This application is populated by content from a group that all members of our department are members of and can contribute to, democratizing and simplifying the process of adding apps to our public page, as Kathy alluded to earlier. Non-ArcGIS online applications, such as our main mapping application, which is made with Vertigis, can be added to the gallery. They just need to be added as an item to ArcGIS Online. In our data hub, we have those download apps that I mentioned a minute ago, links to service endpoints, and the sort of star of the show is our new data downloads list app made with Experience Builder, which has all of our public data downloads, which you can see a screenshot of on the right. I will now elaborate more on the decisions and processes that led to the creation of this app. Going into this project, we all sort of agreed that putting our downloadable data in a table was part of the solution, but where do we go from there? How would we build this table? Lee will later elaborate on some of the behind-the-scenes details of how we build and maintain this table, but I'll be going over a few of the fundamentals. Previously, we had an open data portal, making use of Esri's open data option, which allows you to easily make downloads available in multiple formats to the public just by adding data sets to an ArcGIS Online group designated as an open data group, and a data download form, which Kathy mentioned for some countywide data. We decided we wanted these downloads to come from a single place, which would mean putting download links for both into this table. No. For a regular open data portal, you would just add data sets to the content of the hub and then link to them using one of the hub widgets. But as we wanted to have all our downloads in one place, this meant we needed to create our own links for these open data sets, open data sets. To do this, we combined the URL of the hub, in this case, data-mclio.hub.arcgis.com, followed by /datasets/ with the IDs of the open data feature layers. This particular example here is how we built the URL for our state assembly districts layer, and that leads to this. As you can see, there is an explore at the end of the URL there, which is just added automatically. Added automatically, so you don't need to do that. These open data links don't lead to a direct download like our non-open data links do, but users can click that download button that you can see over on the left, and then choose from a few different file formats to download, or they can even narrow the data set down if they so choose. What fields do we want in this table? Obviously, at a minimum, dataset name and a download link. We also added fields for data categories such as imagery, topographic, environmental, etc. Dataset year, which is relevant for things like aerial imagery and LiDAR data, and download geography. Obviously, we have countywide data, but we have some aerial imagery that comes in townships and half townships. And for all of our open data sets, the user is able to choose what area they want to download, or they can download the entire county. So we have the geography for those listed as user-defined. We also wanted to include metadata using existing metadata from the service layers our open data layers are sourced from, and Lee will elaborate more later about how we made that happen. But then what do we do with this table? We have too many data sets just to put a 200+ row table in our hub site. I had the idea to plug this hypothetical table into a list widget in Experience Builder, where you can build an application that is not map-based without any code. For those who don't know, in a list widget, you can connect it to a table and then populate the list entries using dynamic text, so there's no need to edit each entry manually, and even add images and buttons to each entry as appropriate. Now that we know how we're going to present our downloads, what can we do to improve user experience using other Experience Builder functionalities? First, I used some of those extra fields we added to our table to create views for different categories. Then, as you may know, in Experience Builder, you can add multiple pages to an experience, much like you can with a website. I created a page for each of these category views, then added a menu to the header that displays all these pages. This is an image of the final product. We are not relying on a live demo, so there's just going to be a series of screenshots. This is the home page of the app with all of the data sets. You can see there's a search bar at the top of the list, some filters for download format on the side, and then at the top, you can see that menu with the different category pages, and then on the side, there's the button for the download, as well as a button that links to a page with some basic metadata for each of the data sets. This is just an example of what that dynamic text looks like behind the scenes. This is an example of what one of those views looks like that I set up for the pages. This is for the transportation page. We have some transportation-related data sets that are part of our planometric data as well as our cadastral data. So I have the two filters for the data set names containing transportation or right-of-way, so it would catch those as well as the ones that officially are categorized as transportation data. And then this is just an example of one of the other category pages. This is our LiDAR and topographic data, just for relevant functionalities. This is a relatively small list of data sets, so I didn't include a search bar at the top. It would literally take you longer to type something in than to just scroll down and look at them. But it does include some year filters and download format filters on the side. Oh, and now Lee will elaborate more on what's going on behind the scenes with our data download table.
All right, thanks, Bridget. Yeah, so mentioned earlier, we have a list of downloadable data that drives what you see in the download app. And this particular project was something that kind of helped pull together some different pieces of things that I've been doing over the years that I generally call a geospatial resources inventory. So it's something that I had pulled different pieces together for different purposes. A couple examples would be things that I needed to be informed about to help administer and troubleshoot services and data sources and things like that, and then also to help users find things. So usually it was a matter of helping users find reference layers or find editable data, things like that. So as I mentioned, we'll see in a minute here, this download app table was just one more little piece I needed to add into a system that I had already built to pull this all together. Start with a couple key concepts of this geospatial resources inventory. It's not a static list. It's not something that somebody has to sit and maintain a table that has every single attribute that you need to feed out through this download app. But what it is it's something that is dynamically tying together several pieces of information that is already being stored somewhere. And in many cases, it's information that is already being stored by a system, whether it's your relational database system or if it's an ArcGIS Enterprise Geodatabase. And also, too, thinking about the purpose of this beyond the download app would be something that would be a very nice resource for a service catalog and a self-service strategy. So it's part of what you would pull together to present to your users everything that you have on offer and how they can access it. We're not quite there yet, but this gives us a nice head start on that. So generally, self-service and service catalog would be about promoting awareness of what you have. For those of us who are managing these resources, promoting awareness of how these resources are interrelated or where the dependencies are. And then, for the end user, it's making things easy to discover and then giving them an easy way to actually get to what they just discovered. So just giving you a little peek under the hood here, as I mentioned, I think as Bridget mentioned, some of the pieces of information that we're storing about the downloads, and it's very minimal. It's really just the information about, as Bridget mentioned, the download geography, the download format, and what was the other one? We'll get to that. Yeah, category, and I think there was a year, and there was something that would a layer ID that would tie back to the layer's data source to pull out metadata. And then there was also the download URI, and that's not going to be the full URL. It's going to be all that you need, the only variable part of the full URL, and then we're dynamically just adding the other pieces that you would need for the full URL. So what I already had put together was these, near the top are the highlighted editable tables. And these are things that I already had put together over the years for really my own purposes. So it's everything that you need to know about services and service layers, everything that you need to know about data sources of layers, and then this one last little piece here about those simple attributes for the download table. And so what this is pulling together is it's pulling together a view that is doing all those dynamic things, pulling out the metadata from one that's stored in one place, pulling out the ArcGIS domain information that's being stored in another. And that's kind of what's going on in here behind the scenes. And the end result of this is literally the endpoint that the download hub or the data hub, we need to pick a name for this thing, download app, what the download app is consuming. So in this case, here's an example of an HTML response and then the JSON response. In this case, it's Milwaukee County Parks. So we already spoke a little bit about some of these specific pieces of download information, the category, geography, format. So these are being captured in an editable table. You know, this is being captured in an editable table, but this is added dynamically. And then these are added dynamically. So those pieces of metadata that are coming from the way the XML that ArcGIS stores in an enterprise geodatabase, linked through the service layer that is the actual service layer that you can access through open data. And I'll close my section with just talking a little bit about where I see the future of this going. So one thing that's conspicuously missing would be your portal content. So your layer, you know, the layers, maps, and apps and things like that. What I have put together is really just the back-end enterprise stuff, the enterprise data sources, the service layers, things like that. So our organization, we have ArcGIS Online as our portal, and then we have the server portion of ArcGIS Enterprise. And so we feed out on-premise services that are available through our ArcGIS Online organization. Another thing that we would want to possibly include is we have another system that is capturing usage and access statistics. So take this from just a what's available to who's accessing it, when, how often, things like that. I don't know how much of a priority that is, but that's a possibility. And some considerations for the future if you're thinking about a system like this. You know, if you're always going back to should I just buy this or build it? Last time I checked, I don't think this is something that's an off-the-shelf thing. So in our case, we built it. And the next consideration is something like this sustainable? Going back to that crazy diagram, do you have people that can put a crazy diagram like that together? So you know that leads into my next consideration is what are some ways that you could simplify this? Kind of, not to sound harsh, but kind of dumb it down, make it not so complicated, make it into something that doesn't require you know, a geek to put together. And you know, one consideration that would help simplify would be to just, you know, move everything to a portal. So have everything in one environment. Have your data sources, your layers, your apps, your maps in one environment. And then instead of having some back-end, you know, SQL solution like that diagram, just use Python notebooks to do that initial inventory build, and then run notebooks to discover new content and discover all those different relationships and dependencies, and then store that as content in the portal where everything is just in one neat place. And then in closing, we're going to talk a little bit about some lessons learned.
Sure. Well, thanks for joining us on our start of our journey. We look forward to the new platforms in the future. I'm going to end with some wins. We created that data download app, which is a formula for a service catalog. We eliminated Dropbox, old Titan forms, which were very time consuming. We have experience now with our new platforms, hubs, instant apps. We're just touched on Azure. It's just the beginning of new things to come. And this sets us up for new ideas and best practices for the future. And that's it. Thank you.